Namaste and a very good morning to all of you. In today's presentation, we'll be looking at a very interesting technique for customer segmentation. This technique is called as RFM analysis. Now, there is a very popular marketing axiom that says 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. I repeat, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. But the question is, who are these 20% of customers who can be called as best contacts? Now, to answer this question, we have a popular technique which is called as RFM analysis, or recency, frequency, monetary analysis. RFM helps us identify who are more likely to respond to promotions by grouping them into various cohorts. For example, people who visit a website regularly but don't buy much would be a high frequency but low monetary visitor. RFM analysis was first used by the direct mail industry more than 40 years ago, and it remains to be an effective way of optimizing marketing communications. Now, with this background, I will practically illustrate how to obtain recency score, frequency score, and the monetary score, and also to aggregate the recency, frequency, monetary score and obtain the consolidated RFM value for each customer in SPSS. What you're seeing in front of your screen is SPSS. I will go to the file menu, choose open, then click on data. Here we have different files. Let me choose the option RFM underscore customers. Right. So this is the sample file which I will be using to demonstrate RFM analysis. You can see there are certain important variables like ID, total amount, most recent purchase date, number of purchases, and purchase interval. For example, the first customer, when he came to the shop, he has made close to 10 purchases. The total amount of money that he has spent is $1,313. He last visited the shop on 17th May 2006, and the purchase interval is 229. If you scroll down, you can see approximately 40,000 customers we have. Now, put yourself in the shoes of a marketing professional. If you have to send a direct mailing campaign to 40,000 customers, you can imagine the kind of mailing expenditure that you would make. You'd be spending a lot of money in targeting all 40,000 customers. The question is, can we reduce the mailing cost? Can we reduce the mailing expenditure? Can we identify the best subset of customers, a smaller chunk, who can be called as best contacts? And by contacting only this particular segment, I can reduce the expenditure. I can increase the response rate. I can also increase the yield. How do we do this? This is where RFM analysis steps in. To run an RFM analysis in SPSS, what you need to do is click on the Analyze menu. The last option here is Direct Marketing. We can choose Technique. There are different options here. It says Understand My Contacts. If you want to understand your contacts to help identify my best contacts, we can use RFM analysis. Please choose the option Continue here. There are two options that you get. One is Transaction Data. Second one is Customer Data. You choose customer data if each row contains data for one customer. There are four options here. It expects us to supply the transaction date of the customer, the number of transactions that the customer has made, the amount of money he has spent, the customer identifier. Let me choose customer ID and push it into customer identifier list. Let me give the option for transaction date. I've got the second variable here, which is the date of most recent purchase. The second item here is number of transactions, which is total number of purchases. And the third option here is total amount. So these are the four variables that I need to enter while performing RFM analysis. With this, I'll click on OK. This is the output window that you see. There are two graphs that SPSS produces. Now, this is the RFM analysis heat map that you're seeing. In the x-axis, what you see is the frequency score. Based on the frequency, we have been able to categorize customers into 5 groups. Low frequency corresponds to frequency of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those customers who have a very high frequency will be given high frequency score, and those customers who visit the shop less frequently will be given a lesser frequency score. In the y-axis, you can see recency. You again have 5 different categories of customers based on their recency score, with lower values for recency corresponding to those customers who have come a long time ago, and higher values of frequency correspond to those customers who have come very, very recently. You see different shades of blue. You can look at the legend here. Now, darker the blue color, it implies those customers who are big spenders, and lighter the blue color indicates that these are customers who are small spenders. Ideally, I would be looking at this particular box because this represents those customers who have visited the shop most recently. It also represents those customers who come often, and the monetary value that they spend when they visit the shop is quite high. So this is the quadrant of interest, and this is the quadrant of concern because it represents those customers who have come a long time ago. They come less frequently, and the monetary spend is also very, very low. This is as far as the RFM output is concerned. But if you want to look at each customer's RFM score, you'll have to go to the data window. And as you can see, we have got the raw data. And as I scroll to the right side, you see 4 additional variables: recency score, frequency score, monetary score, and also the consolidated RFM score. For example, here, the first customer, based on his recency, has been given a value of 2. Based on the frequency, he's been assigned a value of 3. And since he's a big spender, we have given him a score of 5, which means that he's a big spender. He comes often, but not quite often. When it comes to recency score, looks like he has got a poor score. So his consolidated RFM score is 235. For the second customer, the RFM score is 154. Third customer has an RFM score of 352. Fourth has 232, 112, so on and so forth. Now, how do we proceed from here? It's one thing to obtain the RFM score. It is quite another to take these RFM scores and devise a marketing strategy so that we can reach out to each of these buckets. To do this, I will select the RFM score, right-click, and choose the option Sort Descending. Once I do this, you can see here all those customers who have a 555 score, that is, they have got the best score when it comes to recency, frequency, and monetary, will come right at the top. We have got quite a few we have got quite a few customers with a big RFM score. If I scroll to the bottom of the data, you can see RFM scores being 111. Their recency score is less, frequency score is less, and monetary score is also less. Let me scroll to the ID. You can identify these customers by their respective IDs. For example, customers with ID 105, 256, 342, 346, 426. All these are customers who have a very, very healthy RFM score. Now, this is how we can bucketize, we can segment customers based on their RFM score into smaller chunks. And once we break down a mammoth data set into smaller chunks based on the RFM score, we can then devise our marketing strategy so that we can optimize the marketing spend. Now, to understand as to how we can devise our marketing strategy for each of these RFM segments, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to Google and pull out a document which is publicly available. Now, this document is called as Tableau RFM Workbook. You can just click on Tableau RFM Workbook, and the very first link fires a workbook. Now, this is publicly available, Tableau Superstore RFM Analysis. Now, we can use this workbook to understand RFM score in a better way. The first one is a heat map. The second one is a bar chart, which corresponds to which corresponds to the number of customers for each of the orders that they've been able to make. Then it also has broken down the customers into 8 segments. The first segment of customers we are calling as best customers. Secondly, they're calling as big spenders. Third group of people can be called as loyal customers. You have recent customers, almost lost, lost customers, lost and cheap customers, and you have others. Now, here you have a filter. It's more like an Excel filter that we have. You can see the customer names. We have given a label as to which segment does he belong to, and the individual RFM score is also given. Now, what I'd like to do with this particular document is, you can see the filter here. Let us identify and investigate each of these segments so that we can tailor a marketing strategy accordingly for each of these segments. You have the RFM filter. Let's look at the first filter. I will choose recency as 1. I'll make a move on to frequency. Here I can choose frequency as 1, and then you can choose monetary as 1. I'm interested in a segment of people whose recency, frequency, monetary is 1, 1, and 1. Now you can see here, there are a few customers that it displays. We have around 30 customers who can be called as best customers. So we have 30 best customers with the best RFM score. You can look at any of the the profile of any individual. I'm looking at the third individual, Pete. Now, Pete, he has placed 12 orders. He has last visited my shop 9 days back, which is almost a week back, and he's a big spender because he spent around $8,647. Very interesting and very impressive. So we can call Pete as a best customer. So the question is, how do we cultivate, how do we nurture a person like Pete? How do we nurture these 30 people whom we are calling as best customers? To devise a marketing strategy, we don't need to give any price incentive for this group. New products and loyalty programs can be contemplated to nurture, to cultivate, and to grow the best set of customers that we have. So this is the first set of people, and we are proposing a marketing strategy, no price incentives. New products and loyalty programs can be directed at your best set of customers. Let's make a move to the second set of customers here. Now, when it comes to R, I'll choose everybody. When it comes to M, again here, I'll choose everybody. And when it comes to frequency, I'll give the value as 1. You can see quite a few customers here. Most of them are what we call as loyal customers. Adrian, Ken, Greg, all of these are loyal customers. I can just identify their profile in a better way. If you look at Greg, the number of orders that he's placed is 11, which is quite impressive. Recency, he's visited my shop almost 36 days back, which is almost a month ago he's visited, and he has spent around $11,820 as the total spend. So this represents loyal customers. So you can call a person like Greg as a loyal customer because he is placing a high number of orders here. Now, what is the marketing strategy? We need to further segment this group of people. You can use a rule-based approach, or you can use any other segmentation techniques to further bucketize this cohort of people. So second group of people we are calling as loyal customers. There are close to 77 such customers whom you can call as loyal customers. Let's make a move on to the third group. The third group I'm going to call as big spenders. Now, when it comes to recency, we have already chosen all. When it comes to frequency, again, you can choose all. But when it comes to the monetary value, you can choose a monetary value of 1. This is the third set of people that we have. The third set of people we can call as big spenders. You can look at the frequency here. Big spenders, there are 94 big spenders in this data set. Who are these big spenders? You have a person called as Sean. You have another person called as Tamra. You have other people like Raymond, so on and so forth. If you want to look at this person, Raymond, now he's a big spender because the number of orders that he has spent is 6. Recency 96. It's almost 3 months since he visited my shop. But when you look at the total spend, it is $15,117. He has spent $15,117. Therefore, we are calling him as a big spender. What is the marketing strategy for Raymond? What is the marketing strategy for Tamara or Sham? We can market expensive products to Raymond and other members in this cohort. This is the third group that we have. We have looked at the profile of best customers, loyal customers, big spenders. I'll make a move to the fourth group, which I will be identifying. The fourth group, I'm looking at the RFM score of 3. And when it comes to frequency, I will specify the value as 1. And again, when it comes to monetary value, I will give the value as 1. Now, we can see quite a few individuals here. You can call them as almost lost. There are 15 such individuals who can be called as almost lost. You have individuals like Edward, Laura, Keith, Paul, Dean, so on and so forth. They have got an RFM score of 311, and you can see the number of orders and recency score as well. Let me just look at the profile of Keith. He's an almost lost customer, 12 orders, 112 days back he last visited my shop, and the total spend is 8,182, which is quite a decent number. So this set of people, that is people who with an RFM score of 311, you can call as almost lost. Why are they almost lost? Because they haven't purchased for some time, but purchase frequently and spend the most. What is the right marketing strategy to target them? Aggressive price incentives is what we need to think of to reach out to this set of customers. So we've looked at best customers, loyal customers, third group being big spenders, almost lost. Now let's look at the next segment, which is 411. Now, when I look at 411, they have got a recency score of 4. Their frequency and monetary score is 1 and 1 respectively. You can call them as lost customers. There you have close to 9 customers whom you can call as lost customers. You have Sanjeet, Clay, Anna, you have Jonathan, so on and so forth, who all belong to what we call as the lost customers. Their typical score is 411. When you look at a person like Jonathan, the number of orders that he's placed is 11. 394 days ago, he visited my shop. It's almost a year. In fact, it's more than a year. $7,600 approximately he has spent when he's visited my shop. So we are calling them as lost customers. They haven't purchased for some time, but purchase frequently and spend the most. What is the right marketing strategy? The right marketing strategy would be to give aggressive price incentives for this cohort of people. And finally, what we have is those people who have got a recency score of 4, frequency score of 4, and the monetary score also being 4. They have got a poor recency, frequency, as well as a poor monetary score, 4, 4, and 4. You have quite a few people here who belong to what we are calling as lost cheap customers. You have roughly 121 customers who can be called as lost and cheap customers. Some of their names would be Dennis, Cindy, Pauline, David, so on and so forth. All of these people can be labeled as lost and cheap customers. Now you can see their RFM score is quite poor, 444. Now, if you want to look at the profile of these people, let's look at a typical example, that is David Phillip. Now he has given 2 orders, which is not high. Recency, 812 days back, he visited my shop, which is almost 3 years. And the total spend is barely $1,059. Now we are calling them as lost and cheap customers. Now the typical characteristic of profile of this group is the last purchase long ago and purchased very few items and spent little. what is the right marketing strategy for them. Don't spend too much time trying to retain this set of people because they're not very profitable. So this is how we can see that RFM score can be used to bucketize people as best customers, loyal customers, big spenders, almost lost customers, lost and cheap customers. This graph here gives you on an average what is the recency score for each of the 8 groups. The highest recency seems to be for lost customers as well as lost cheap customers. The lowest recency seems to be for best customers, also for recent customers, which is quite understandable. Now, to summarize, we have seen RFM analysis. What exactly is RFM analysis? Second thing that we have seen is how to obtain recency, frequency, monetary score. How do we consolidate them? And how do we sort of devise a marketing strategy for the different cohorts of people? One question is, how does this help the marketing team? Now, there are 5 key takeaways as far as the marketing team is concerned. RFM analysis helps the marketing team to identify the best overall customers. Secondly, it helps us identify the potential valuable customers. Thirdly, it helps us identify the customer cohort contributing to the churn rate. Fourthly, it helps us identify the customers that should be retained. And lastly, it helps us identify the customer segment that's most likely to respond to engagement campaigns. You may ask me, what are the key benefits of RFM analysis? When RFM analysis is applied with marketing analytics, it leads to 4 major benefits. Firstly, it leads to increased customer retention. Secondly, it leads to increased response rate. Thirdly, it leads to increased conversion rate. Fourthly, it leads to increased revenue. With this, I come to the end of today's presentation. If you have liked this video, I request you to subscribe to my channel and please give me a like button. Thank you very much.